Okay, this is question number 7. Okay, question number 7 gives you this huge something over here. Okay, a big equation thing, which just looks pretty horrible. The formula above gives the monthly payment, and it gives this, that's M is the monthly payment needed to pay off a loan. So somebody took up a pretty ugly looking loan here, it looks like. So they took out a loan of P amounts, and at a rate of R percent interest, okay, and over a period of N months. So if they wanted to pay off their loan in certain number of months, okay, or that they took out, that's how much their loan took out at that rate, okay, and that's how much they would have to pay. So when you take out a loan, say you see somebody takes out $1,000 loan, you just don't give them $1,000 back. You have to give them $1,000 plus some interest, and that's calculated with this interest rate over here. R. If they're nice to you, the interest rate would be low. If they're not, they want to make money out of you, the interest rate would be high. N here represents this dude wants to pay off the loan in a certain number of months. They don't want to drag it off forever. They want to pay it off in a certain number of months, and this is how many months. Maybe they want to pay off in 24 months or 12 months or whatever. So that's what they've decided. And okay, how much do I have to pay every month if I want to pay off this loan in, let's say, 24 months? Okay, given the interest rate being whatever the interest rate is, okay, maybe like 2.5%, and they put for this much loan that they took out. So this huge gigantic formula tells them how much they would have to make, how much payment they have to make every month to pay off their loan. Okay. Oh yeah, it's okay, that's fine. Let's see. And then the question is, which of the following gives P? That's how much they took out for in the terms of M, R, and N. So first thing you have to do is you have to figure out what the question is asking you, if you haven't panicked yet. So the question is asking you which one of these expressions over here, okay, gives P in terms of M, R, and N. What does that even mean? That means basically solve this thing for P. So if you want P given in terms of M, R, and N, that means if you're given M, if you're given R, and if you're given N, if you're given these, find P. So you want P over here and everything else to be here, and on this side you want somewhere R, you want N and M over here. So this is saying this which one of this equivalent these things over here are solved for P. So what we are asked to do basically over here is to solve this equation for P. Now you have to step back here for a second, okay? If that's what they're really asking you, they're like really evil people or something like that, right? Because who the heck would know how to solve that but P, right? So if you look at that and then you go, oh my God, how do they expect me to solve this for P? Either they're really mean people, okay, or maybe the question is not as difficult as it looks. Maybe there's some trick over here that they're asking me, right? Well, that's exactly the case here. This question is actually very easy to do if you know what they're asking you to do. Okay, this question is basically asking you your understanding of how if you can manipulate proportions. If I have A over B equals X over Y, okay, this is a proportion. Okay, so this question is really about proportions. How? Well, you will see in just a second, okay? So A over B equals X over Y. So this is called a proportion. Proportion are basically ratios. It's like, okay, 1/2, right? And 5 over 10. Is 5 over 10 half? Are they equivalent fractions? Yes, they are. That's what a proportion is, okay? So, or for example, or 10 over 20. That's another equivalent proportion, isn't it? Isn't 10 over 20 half, right? Or 50 over 100, isn't that half? Yes, it is. So these are all equivalent proportions. Okay. The thing about proportions is you have to know how to be able to work with them, how you work with them. So the idea here is you have to be reasonably comfortable manipulating or working with proportions. For example, if you're given proportions like this, there's some things that you can do with proportions that are legitimate. For example, if you have a proportion like this, okay, first you can cross multiply. Everybody can cross multiply. Then A times Y equals B times X, right? This is cross multiplication. That's cool. mean, if you have a proportion, you can cross multiply with it, right? So that's one thing that you can do with proportions. But that's only one of the things that you can do. Many times, more useful thing to do are like this. For example, if you have a proportion like this, you can swap these. You can B and X can trade places, or you don't have to trade places. X can just come over here, and B can go over there. For example, and that's a legitimate thing to do. In other words, it would still be a true statement. For example, then you would have A over B times X equals, now there's 1 over here, so there's 1 over Y, okay? So it's not 0 and then Y doesn't magically go up on the top or something like that. No, there's a 1X, so the 1 over Y, okay? So if you have a proportion like this, see, like over here, one of the legitimate things, you can take the X over here, okay? Or you can just swap the two variables, X and B. So you can either take one or the other or both of them across like this. So one thing you can do, for example, A over BX equals 1 over Y. Another thing you can do is to swap both the variables. Okay, like this. Okay, and another thing that you can do, okay, you can swap those two, or you can swap these two also. So then you can, if I give like A over B is equal to X or Y, you can swap A and Y. So you get Y over B equals X over A. See, in this, from here to here, I swapped these two. I exchanged these. Okay, in this case, I had exchanged these two. All right, so when you have proportion, and you can only do that when you have proportions. Okay, for example, you can't do this like if you have this. Okay, X over 3 plus Y equals 1 over X plus 3. You can't just take the X and put it over there or something. You have to take the whole thing or something like that. Or if you have, and you can't do that, for example, if you have something like this. There's something attached. This is not a proportion anymore. Proportion has to be something like this over this equals this over this. There's nothing attached over here like that. All right. So and then you can then this is still a proportion, but you have to swap the whole thing over here. All right. So that's something that you have to understand. Now, I explain this to students all the time. For some reason, they have a very hard time with this. To me, it's like easy peasy. It's like, they're playing musical chairs. But the only thing about this is that they can only swap like this way. I mean, the top guy can go to the bottom guy can go to the top, right? But across from the equation. So X can't jump over here and sit next to the A over here like this. That's wrong. That's plain wrong. That doesn't work, okay? They have to go if you're going to trade places, they have to go from top to bottom or bottom to up like this. Okay. I don't know why sometimes students have a very hard time with this. But anyways, if you have proportions like this, there's some legitimate things that you can do like this. You can swap these one or the other or both. Okay. And the other thing you can do is you can swap these one, both, or the other. So now this is very useful. See, this is extremely useful in solving equations. For example, if you're given like this, for example, xk, okay, I'm just making this up, xk over p equals pi n over L, okay? Now let me start out slow because now I'm panic. Okay, so x over k equals pi over L, okay? I'm going to use m so I don't confuse anybody. So okay, here, okay, now I'm going to solve this solving this for m. You can do many different ways. You can, if you wanted to solve this for m, for example, okay, you can do cross multiplication, butterfly double cross method. You can cross to multiply, okay? Then you get xm equals k times pi like this, and you're solving for m. You can divide both sides by x like this, and you get and then you could get m is equal to k times pi over x. Okay, so that's one way to solve for m. So if you wanted to solve for m here, you can cross multiply and solve for m that way. But then if you know how the properties of these proportions, you can say, well, I can swap places. I can just bring the m over here and bring the x over here like this, because those are legitimate things to do, right? And then I could just take the k over there, right? And then you can do that in one step, or you can do it in two steps. Let's do it in two steps here. So first I'm going to swap these. So they're going to be m over k equals pi over x, right? I just swap them, and that's honest to God okay to do. Okay, and then you have to get rid of the m because you're solving for m as an m and m. So and then you just take the k over there. And m is going to equal to pi times k over x. Okay, so this, if you know these properties of proportion, it makes it very easy to solve equations like this. Okay, now you can even solve some more complicated equations. For example, I'm just making this up again. X times p over k equals pi times n over z times over z. Okay, so let's say I wanted to solve this one for k. I'm going to solve it for k. So to solve this for k, it's on the bottom. How are you going to solve for k if you're sitting on the bottom? So you have to take it to the top. So you're going to bring it over there. So that's the first thing you're going to do, is going to bring the k over here. Okay, so you're going to bring that k over there. But then if you do that, see, what you're going to have is you're going to have k over here, right? And you have all this stuff sitting next to the k, right? So you're going to have to get rid of that. Okay, so if you want to solve this for k, just in your mind's eye, you have to think like this. If you're going to solve this for k, okay, first thing you're going to have to take the k, this is how you think, over here. But then I have to get rid of all of this, right? That means if I have to get rid of all of that, all right, I'm going to have to like take the z and put it on top over there, okay, because z is in the bottom, okay, and then I'm going to have to take this pi thingy over here, the pi, and bring it down here, and I have to take the n and bring it down here. Okay, now again, I'm solving for k. So if you're going to solve for k, you have to bring the k over here. You have to get rid of all of this. And if you're getting rid of all of this, you have to take the z over here, pick the pi, and the n over here. So you can solve for k in one step if you know this basic properties over here of proportions. So let's solve this for k. I'm going to put this k over here. So k is going to equal to, all right, now here's going to be xp is going to remain on this side, right? I'm going to bring the z up here next to that over there, and then I'm going to give pi down here and n down here. There it is. K is that. Okay, so if you know the properties of proportions like this, you can manipulate these proportions, and it becomes very easy and very useful to be able to do that. See, that's what this question is asking, because this is a proportion. Okay, so here in this case you have something like this: m is equal to a times b over c times p. This is A, this is B, this is like C, this whole thing is C. And then you're asked to solve for P. To solve for P, what you're going to have to do is, well, you're going to have to get rid of the C and take it over there. You're going to take the A, bring it down here, and take the B, bring it down here, like M right over here. So if you were to solve for this equation for P, you keep the P on this side, M is over here, the A is going to go down and with the B, and then C is going to go up over here like this. So P is going to be this. Okay, now in that case then, if you were to solve this huge, humongous thing for P, you're going to have to take this thing and bring it up right next to M, okay? And then you're going to have to take this thing and bring it down here, and you have to take this thing and bring it down here. So P is going to be M times this thing over here, and those things are going to be in the bottom, and that's this over here. So if you knew that, this question would take you like, you know, literally like 10 seconds to know. But you have to kind of master these proportions, and this is a very useful skill. And they're not trying to torture you, and they're trying to maybe teach you a lesson. If you learn the lesson over here and you try to master this thing, and you save yourself a lot of time, not just in exam, but in your mathematical career, so to speak. Until next time, as-salatu was-salamu ala rasulillah wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.